Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump is on track to win re-election. He's going to win re-election. I called it in 2015. I said Clinton would lose swing states and was unelectable. NPR quoted me. That link is below in the pinned comment and description. Please share that link everywhere. The NPR link. The NPR article that quotes me and 538. They said that Trump wouldn't even be GOP nominee. I said Clinton would lose swing states, and she was unelectable. Clinton is still unelectable. She will still become the nominee. Share my Times of Israel article, Hillary Clinton, not Biden, will be nominee, and my Huffington Post article, Hillary Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. The only chance they have is with Madam Secretary. Why? One reason they have to elect Clinton and find some way, and they will, to give the nomination from Biden to Clinton, and I will have made the biggest political call of all time, is because Madam Secretary did a lot better among Latino and Hispanic voters than Biden is doing. Trump is doing better among Latino and Hispanic voters. This is one of the many reasons he will win re-election. This is one of the biggest reasons, actually, that he's going to win re-election. If you're a Latino or Hispanic Trump supporter, give me your thoughts below. You are going to help propel President Trump into 8 years. Thank God. He's a great president. First president the only president to sign the First Step Act. The only president to sign an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses, which is a big deal for me and other Jewish Americans. Not a big deal for left-leaning, maniacal, hysterical, apoplectic, left-leaning college students. Anyway, he's reversing U.S. foreign policy, which is what we needed. He is ending, in late February, early March, the Trump administration signed a deal to end our involvement, our almost 20-year involvement, in a region of the world that had never-ending, perpetual counterinsurgency conflict. Only President Trump would have done that. Only President Trump did this. President Obama did not do this. Bush obviously got us into this never-ending conflict. President Trump is getting us out, setting the groundwork to get Americans home. Thousands upon thousands of Americans home. But here, we can go on forever. First president to truly address the trade deficit with China, the $400 billion trade deficit. You can go on forever. Now, if people hear this, they say, well, you know what, that's not true. We had record low unemployment before the pandemic. Pandemic wasn't his fault. People say, where's the federal government? The federal government is limited on what it can do. It's governors. Just ask the governor of New York, who presides over the epicenter of this, after on March 1st stating that the risk remains low for the people of New York. There's no need for undue anxiety. This is a blue state issue if you want to make things into blue or red. The top 5 states with the most cases and most lives lost are New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Illinois, and Pennsylvania. All blue states. And 4 of the 5 are Democratic machines. God bless the people in those states. But you're run by governors and by representatives, by and large, that are mostly Democrat. Okay? When Democrats say there's a systemic injustice in this country, the people who are suffering from this systemic injustice and this horrific racism, generally, which political party represents them? Oh, that's right. Democrats, by and large, are supposed to have taken care of this decades ago. Systemic poverty, inequality. Well, why haven't they? They're actually pointing the finger at themselves, but that's a whole other story. Latino is on track to be the largest share of non-white voters in 2020. Well, if that's the case, then Biden has it won't be Biden, but Democrats have no chance. That's one reason they have to go with Clinton, because she did a lot better. But here, this is CNN. Biden is doing worse than Clinton among Hispanic voters. Now, Clinton crushed Trump with Hispanic voters in 2016 pre-election polls, 61-23. But she only won by she didn't win. They only got 61-23. Trump got almost 30% of the Latino vote. So Biden, on the other hand, holds an average of 58-33% lead. So in the pre-election polls, Biden is doing worse than Clinton. And when the election took place, Trump did better among Latino and Hispanic voters in 2016 than people thought. So Biden is doing worse among Latino and Hispanic voters. Then all of these polls are not finding the non-college educated people, asking them, well, what do you think of President Trump or Biden, the white non-college educated? But also all of these polls, and I did this on my live stream, you could look at every one of the major polls that says that Trump is down by 14. Democrats are overrepresented by either 5 to 10 points, meaning more Democrats are asked. That doesn't make any sense. There are actually less Democrats that show up on election day. So that makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. Then they're falling back, which is another trick they're doing. This is kind of hilarious. They're saying, well, you know what? If Biden's margin nationally is 8 points or higher, then any margin of error within swing states is completely obsolete, because there's no way that Trump could win in swing states, even if they show that Biden's up. And even though they were inaccurate in 2016, there's no way, if he's so far ahead of Trump in the national average. The polls are even more inaccurate than they were in 2016. In 2016, you also had Clinton up by double digits around this time, and you also had Clinton a month before. And I did this last night on my live streams. Check out my live streams this evening. I always have two: one early evening, one late evening live stream, Pacific time. So around like 7:30, 8 p.m. Pacific, I have my first live stream, and then a little later in the evening. And subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. And if you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. And ladies and gentlemen, I will be starting a membership program for this channel, so you'll have emojis and your own emojis, and you'll have uploads that only you can see, and all this stuff. Even live streams that only you could be on. So anyway, I'll be starting that. But they say that, well, his lead nationally is so large that that would take care of any inaccuracies within the swing state polls. The problem is you're asking more Democrats, a lot more Democrats than Republicans. And there's something inherently wrong with these polls that I was talking about even in 2016. Generally, you're not getting Trump Republicans. Generally, a person who likes President Trump or is enthusiastic about President Trump is not going to answer the phone when New York Times, CNN, or any college is going to say, hey, you know what? Do you have a half an hour? Okay. Generally, independents even within these polls, they choose President Trump by a 16-point margin on the economy. Independents are going to decide swing states. If the economy is going to be the most important issue, because the issue regarding the pandemic and the protests, these are new topics that the media has squarely blamed, unilaterally and in a unanimous fashion blamed President Trump. Everything is his fault. But people tune out. The media has very little influence. I mean, the media has a great deal of influence, but the media cannot prevent President Trump from winning re-election, because they could not prevent him from winning in 2016. The intelligence community, corrupt intelligence officials, cannot prevent that from taking place, even though they tried in 2016. Why? Or they at least set the stage for explaining why Democrats lost. That won't happen when he wins again because President Trump runs the intel community. So Democrats are going to have to deal with a loss on November 3rd. If you have more Latino and Hispanic voters voting for President Trump, you're not going to win as a Democratic Party. And I feel that you're going to have more black and African American voters. Okay, and if you're a black and African American Trump supporter, give me your thoughts below. Democrats have deceived themselves into thinking that Trump is the reason the pandemic exists or that people have lost their lives. Half of all the lives lost are in 5 states, all blue states. Okay, then they tried to compare, the Los Angeles Times wrote an article trying to compare Florida to New York. There's no comparison at all. They don't look at the aggregate stats in terms of lives lost. You will never get that. You'll also never get issues like mortality rate, by age, and a whole bunch of other things you won't get. So, media is, what they have to do is prop up a sinking ship until they change captains. Hillary Clinton's going to be a nominee, or Biden loses in a landslide. And the polls were not only off miserably in 2016. They always say, oh, well, you know what? In the end, the polls were really accurate. She outspent Trump 2-1. I don't care about the popular vote. I care about the Electoral College. The popular vote is a function of media hysteria in this case. If the media polls for one candidate, and that candidate has Hollywood also, has every major celebrity, oh, please, he's a tyrant, Trump. They don't look and say, nobody says, hey, you know what, we did have a great economy before. I mean, have you heard this from anyone? They were saying the sky was falling. They were saying the sky was falling when we had record low unemployment. Now we have the pandemic, imagine. Anyway, and you better believe a lot of these decisions made by governors just possibly could be correlated to trying to ensure President Trump's economy doesn't rebound. But maybe not, or maybe so. Biden is doing worse than Clinton among Hispanic voters. There's another article, Latino support for Trump is real, and that's a problem for Democrats, February 17, 2020. And then, of course, it starts off, President Trump has done almost everything he can to anger Latino voters. This is not necessarily true. This is not, and they do the same thing for my ethnicity also, Jewish Americans. They do the same thing for every background. Despite his horrible, mean words that have angered, and then fill in the background of people, he still has support. How could this be? That's because Americans of all backgrounds they don't look at CNN and MSNBC and say, oh, this is gospel. President Trump, when he writes the words law and then the next word order, everyone wants that. Everyone wants to live their lives in peace. If you want to tear down a statue, you have to do so legally. You can't just go ahead, I don't like that because of this, and that, and we're going to tear it down. You're going to go to jail. That's why there were hundreds of arrests. And you don't see Democrats. They don't take a knee. I don't see Pelosi taking a knee during the national anthem, and I don't see Pelosi tearing down statues. That's because they sit on the fence. Like most of the wonderful liberal pundits, they sit on the fence. So they're like, well, I want Medicare for all, but I'm still going to vote for Clinton. Or they say, I'm never Biden, and then they'll become Clinton. Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee. If you don't believe me, the DNC spokeswoman stated, we are not officially nominating Joe Biden. We are not. Okay, this whole thing was to prop up a political party. And I will have made the biggest political call of all time. Tell your friends, everybody. But Latino voters and Hispanic voters are going to be the key to this election. And the economy is going to be important for everyone. And Trump is known as a president who does well, who presided over a record-setting U.S. economy. The pandemic is not Trump's fault. The response to the pandemic is the fault of mayors and especially governors. If you don't believe it, why does Wyoming have a drastically different, is not suffering at all with this? I mean, not nearly compared to New York, okay, Kansas, Utah, New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Illinois. You have New Jersey. If the rebuttal is, well, I mean, those states have major centers of population in urban areas. Well, then why didn't, if that's the rebuttal, why didn't those governors and those mayors know this in March or February? Go to the state of the state addresses, just like the State of the Union for the president. The state of the state addresses never mentioned for any of these governors. They don't mention the virus. So it's like President Trump's on the way to winning re-election. The media spin. Okay, in 2016 it was Clinton is qualified. Nobody believed that. Nobody believed that Madam Secretary is qualified. Okay, couldn't even finish a tenure as Secretary of State without deliberately putting top secret and special access program intelligence on servers running outside of the United States government. That's not qualified for anything but hiding information. Very qualified for hiding information. It's very good. But for president, nobody believes this. Biden cannot be 14 points up because he has not said anything inspirational, the only thing he does say, like you ain't comment, or like he meanders off and he says the most absurd things, meanders off into Never Never Land, and then they say, well, Trump said this. Like, not even, you go with that. If they ever went with Biden, you would lose miserably. And then you'd blame, I mean, who knows who you'd blame. November 3rd, by the way, the hangover on November 4th, you're not going to have Comey Democrats. You're not going to have Comey and Clapper and Brennan and Strzok to help you. So you're going to have to deal with that hangover. And you're going to, oh my God, we did what for 4 years? Oh no, oh my God. So that's November 3rd is going to be the biggest day ever in the history of the internet, including YouTube. And Trump's going to take down sites like, basically, I mean, if you've spent your life as this crusader, as this person on Twitter and Facebook, well, do you still have the things you wrote on MySpace? Because those mediums are going to go the way of MySpace. They're not going to be around 3, 4, 5 years from now. And if they are, not with the same influence. So you've spent hours upon hours upon hours every day, every week, if you're a Democrat, just trying to rail on President Trump, demean, condemn, mock him, and you've retweeted him to 8 years. They're going to retweet President Trump into 8 years in office, which is going to be hilarious and fantastic. But they're not going to do so. Biden, who knows who his vice president will be, but that vice president's going to be Hillary Clinton's vice president. I don't know how it happens. Maybe Biden slides into second base and I tore my ACL, coach. Okay, bring up Rodham. Who knows? Who knows? But it ain't going to be the way. It's not going to be Biden versus Trump. Trump will obliterate Biden in every debate as well, if they ever debated. Biden wanders off into Never Never Land. I don't even want to get into it. I think that's a shtick and a charade also. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. If you want to support my voice long-term, people, my Patreon is below. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support H.A. Goodman's other channel, subscribe to it right now. It's below in the pinned comment. And please share. I have a great article on sports. I love sports, and it's a little side of me that nobody you generally sees. I have an article. Share that everywhere. It's below. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the most dominant athlete and boxer in history. Please share. If you disagree, agree. Just read it. Give me your thoughts. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll be here a little later today for the live streams, and check and subscribe right now to H.A. Goodman's other channel. I have an amazing segment.